Hey everyone, and welcome to Boxmining. So recently there was this FUD wave against Ethereum. That's fear, uncertainty, and doubt being spread. And the argument goes as this. The ICO market is faltering, and because it's faltering, it's going to cause a panic sell, crashing down the price of Ethereum. And we're going to look at some of the articles that are causing this kind of FUD wave, and we're going to look at this argument in this larger scope in general. We're going to compare that with Kickstarter as well, because Kickstarter is very much analogies could be drawn between Kickstarter and ICO, because Kickstarter, you're raising for a lot of new novel products, and some of these products don't deliver. And we're going to look at what happened in Kickstarter and try to draw the analogy back to the ICO market as well. We're also going to look at the VCs in this space, and we're going to discuss a little bit about what's going to happen next. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Strap in and let's get started. Let's start off by taking a look at the argument in the first place. Let's take a look at what the BitMEX CEO is saying. He's basically calling out the VCs out. He's basically saying, well, yeah, these VCs, they're like little boys. They don't have the mental strength to cut down positions and limit their losses. And their LPs, the people that give them money, they can see the particular price of the last token. They can see the progress and how things are going. And if things aren't going well, they're going to add to the VC's stress and anxiety. And at a certain point, these VCs are going to say, fuck it, it's all over. I want to dump everything, causing Ethereum to just crash down. And well, why do you ask this ICO so important? Because Ethereum grew massively when ICOs grew. In fact, ICOs are probably one of the biggest use cases of Ethereum right now. It's a smart contract, the ERC-20 contract. It's the idea of, hey, if you send me Ethereum, if you send me 1 Ethereum, I'll give you 100 tokens. That's a very basic idea. And ICOs raised a lot of money. So if you look at ICO data last year from 2017, it really took off in June with 600 million raised, and it topped off at the end of December with $1.6 billion raised. And if you want to draw some further comparisons, you can see that the June month was a big spike. And if you look at the price of Ethereum, that's right here, June last year, that's where a big spike in Ethereum happened. And the reasoning behind this is quite simple. VCs or any investors wanting to invest in ICOs, well, they need to have a stockpile of Ethereum. If the ICO launches and you don't have any Ethereum ready, you're not going to be able to, send Ethereum into that smart contract. And as a result, you're going to miss out. Fear of missing out, that was pretty big. So that's why there is this kind of correlation between ICOs and Ethereum. And what are these funds that are being set up? Well, Neo Global Capital came out, Pantera Capital, Kinetic Capital. These are professional VC firms that invest solely on cryptocurrencies and on ICOs. So that was the ecosystem that's being formed. And in fact, they can raise a lot of money to do so. Now, the argument goes as this. If the ICO market does falter, and we see a little bit of that sign this year. So ICOs held out in February, March. But if you look at July, that's when you can see the figures dwindling. So right now, July is $400 million raised. And August, I'm not going to say that because we're still in the month of August right now. So it's a little bit unclear what that trend is going to be. But right now, there is a lot of FUD waves in the ICO market, especially with arguments put forth, well, are these ICOs performing? Are these new projects delivering? Are they scams? So let's talk about this idea of disillusion in the first place, because you can see that and draw an analogy with Kickstarter. Because when Kickstarter first came out, and it can be drawn an analogy here because Kickstarter, they're offering a commodity in return. So you're early investing, you're crowdsourcing, crowdfunding new brilliant ideas, and they give you a commodity at the end, which is very similar to an ICO, because an ICO, you're not getting equity. I want to really state that out, because right now that would come under securities law in the States especially. But with an ICO, a lot of times what you're getting back is a token to use on that platform. For example, if you're using the Brave Attention, basic attention token, it's for advertising on the Brave browser. or the Binance token. You're using that to get discounts on the Binance platform. So it has some form of utility at the end. And that's why I want to draw this comparison with Kickstarter. And you see no more clearly than with this project here. So this is the CST01 wristwatch. It's like the super thin watch you put on your hand. It's got an e-ink display, and it has a lot of the hallmarks of an ICO as well. If you look at it at the start, the first thing that they put out are, oh yes, it's covered by these reputable journals. We have reputation, we have this cool, brilliant idea. And in fact, they even have a mock-up of the final product at the end. So they're trying to establish legitimacy. They're coming out with a lot of promises, and that's why they can raise money. This project raised $1 million, and that's sufficient to get a project launched. But unfortunately, with a lot of these projects, they don't succeed. And that was when articles came out saying, after making $1 million CST01 watch, it just didn't make it. The product didn't get delivered. There were delays coming up. There were problems. And then at the end, they couldn't just finish shipping the product and nothing got delivered. And then came the FUD on Kickstarter as well. So you have, the biggest failures in Kickstarters. That was kind of really hitting home to a lot of people who were very disappointed that what they invested in, what they pledged, that didn't really come to fruition. And we see that analogy with ICOs as well. These big scams costing investors more than 100 million. This kind of same analogy can be drawn. But what really came out of it at the end was Kickstarter didn't die. So that was the interesting take home from this. Even though there was FUD, even though there were projects that didn't succeed, well, if you look at the statistics, this is the cumulative amount of funding pledged for Kickstarter. And this is a statistic of it going from 2012 to 2018. And cumulative means it adds up. So it's just not like per month, but it adds up. But what we see is that the amount of money being pledged is going up. So every month there's new pledges coming in, and Kickstarter is very much operational. And what's another interesting part about that is you can kind of draw almost a straight line here. And that means that the amount pledged every quarter, that's very similar. That means that there's very consistent, and it really changed from this early time when Kickstarter first started. That's in June of 2013 when it really gained popularity. There was a lot of hopefulness in the market. That's where we saw the initial spike. But afterwards, what we saw is this kind of stabilization of the amount. People who wanted to invest in Kickstarter, the people who want these new ideas, they're okay with a few disappointments, and they still want to keep backing new projects. And that's what we see now. This is a much more stable ecosystem of crowdfunding. And I want to draw this analogy with the ICO market as well, because, well, there is an initial kind of phase where we're all suckered into these promises. But what I can definitely see is draw the analogy here that eventually it's going to stable out. The people who are interested, people who are trying to look for new products, and there are going to be new good ideas in here. The reason for this is because ICOs have strongly disrupted the startup space. Because, well, why would a brilliant entrepreneur think about VCs if they can choose ICOs? And this is, you've seen that in Silicon Valley too, the latest HBO series. And they're coming out and rejecting these oppressive term sheets from, say, Sequoia, or from, they're raising. There's just too many limitations. They want to get in, grow that community early, and this is super disruptive in that sense. So what I see is that ICOs as a core concept, it is disruptive as hell, and it's not going to go away anytime this year. So I feel like this is kind of like an overreaction. It's like an overreaction when Kickstarter first started, these projects, first Kickstarter projects didn't start delivering. So that's my opinion on this. ICOs aren't going to go anywhere. There's going to be these up and down swings with regulations as this kind of whole ecosystem stabilizes, but you just can't put that cat back into the bag. Guys, I'd like to hear what you guys think of this argument, and if there's any other data points you want to add, if there's any comparisons that you think are kind of very applicable in this situation. Boxmining has always been a very community-based channel. We explored this event together, And as a whole, we're stronger than our individual parts. And I would love to hear what you think and your data that you personally feel is important as well. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. In terms of upcoming news and videos, I'm researching up Elastos. A lot of people have been talking about Elastos in respect to their operating system and also their merge mining with Bitcoin. I'm also going to look at Monero as well. This is one of the topics that I didn't cover because I didn't know enough about, and I've been doing a lot of research on Monero recently. So if you guys have any other suggestions for what to cover and what you like about these two projects, leave a comment on the bottom below as well. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Remember, click that like and subscribe button, and see you next time.